What's up? This is my review for the 2018 Asus Zephyrus M GM501GM. This unit is running the 8th generation i7-8750H hexa-core processor with a GTX 1060 with 6GB of virtual RAM, slightly powerful than the 1060 Max-Q version. A 1070 model is also available for this unit. For the memory, it comes with a 16GB DDR4 2666 MHz of RAM that is upgradable up to 32GB dual channel. Most say that dual channel is much more faster and efficient than running a single channel of RAM, but so far so good. The dimensions are 15.1 inches in width, 10.3 inches in depth, and 0.7 inches in height, but reaches around 3/4 of an inch when the lid is open, as the rear part of the unit rises for the additional exhaust, just like the previous generation Zephyrus. For the ports, on the left side, composed of the power port, HDMI, 3 USB 3.1, and a headphone jack, while on the right side, another USB 3.1 port, a Type-C Thunderbolt 3, and a Kensington lock. A thin laptop with a killer system. The display of this unit is awesome. It is a 15.6-inch Full HD 1080p IPS panel with a 144Hz refresh rate and a 3 millisecond response rate. I think this is one of the fastest response rate display in a laptop. The bezels around the display is kinda old school, which I like, but most people prefer those recent thin bezel laptops, just like the Gigabyte Aero 15X and the MSI GS65 Stealth. I have used laptop keyboards, and this is probably the best one I have used. The travel distance is ideal for me, and the RGB backlit lighting made it more awesome, especially when using it at dark areas. For the sound, the speakers are located below the sides, and overall, it does its part. The sound is way better than my previous laptops. Can't compare it to the Gigabytes and the MSI though. The laptop produces fan sounds even at idle, but nothing to be bothered about. But when gaming, it amplifies to an extent that people around you can hear it. But if it is just you, it won't get louder than your speakers nor your headset. The power brick that comes with the unit is unfortunately the same as the previous ROG models, which is okay. Overall, this is a killer unit housed in a thin model that surprisingly delivers. There is one helpful app that is included with the unit: the Asus Gaming Center app. Here, you can set the fan to silent, balanced, and overboost. I mainly go balance mode because the overboost tends to be slightly loud or maybe very loud for some, but it gives a boost of performance to games. The price to pay. You can control the keyboard lighting here as well with the Asus Aura Core. You can also choose two graphic options with this model: the Optimus or the Discrete mode. The Optimus mode turns off G-Sync and switches to the Intel HD graphics. This is ideal when you are saving battery. The Discrete mode fully utilizes the GTX 1060 and also consumes much more power. The battery life is not that good. I played games and just reached almost 2 hours of playing time, but when just using Optimus and just surfing the net, it reached almost 3 hours. So you might need that power brick always if you are on the go. Now for some CPU benchmarks. I ran Cinebench and got a score of 163 for the single core and 1031 with a multi-core benchmark. But when I checked Intel's ideal result, it is far from my current results. I tried undervolting and it gave me a score of 1255, which is closer to Intel's ideal 1270. The same with V-Ray benchmark tool. The undervolted CPU resulted 20% more faster than the stock CPU. Here are the results for the Heaven benchmark. Now for some gaming benchmarks. All games are played with G-Sync on. Starting with Witcher 3. The game doesn't need high FPS and is still very smooth at ultra settings, around 60 FPS. For Shadow of War, ran with a built-in benchmarking tool and is fairly smooth, even in ultra settings, but I think most people won't even play in ultra. For CSGO, I noticed that in first-person shooters, the GPU usage tend to drop around 30 to 50%, thus these are the frame rate results. Even when lower GPU usage, the game is still very smooth, and together with a 144Hz display, it owns. For Overwatch, there are no difference in playing with ultra and low settings. Might as well play with custom low settings. Fortnite. The same with Overwatch. Fortnite also runs pretty smooth at over 100 FPS. For PUBG, but with this very optimized game, the result varies. When you are at the lobby or in-game but just running and roaming around, the FPS reaches 144 max at most settings, but immediately drops when something happens in the game, together with the GPU usage. But the GPU usage doesn't affect the gameplay overall. I haven't reached 90 degrees Celsius on the CPU since, even while gaming. It has been sitting on 75 to 85 degrees Celsius at stock, but when undervolted, it only sits around 65 to 75 degrees Celsius. Repasting would probably improve the temperatures a lot. The FPS count is still awesome for only the 1060. How much more with the 1070? The main problem is the GPU usage drop. I tried using XTU to undervolt, but I can't get past negative 100 millivolts without going blue screen. While throttle stop, I got to negative 156.3 millivolts on CPU core and negative 44.9 CPU cache, and got my PUBG frames to 120 to 140 frames per second. So the 8750H currently is a great upgrade from the 7700 HQ if you are a CPU extensive user. But if you're only playing games, there are much more cheaper options out there. For some, the bezel looks awful. But if you like Asus and wants those thin bezels, wait for the Strix 2. Mostly same specs and a smaller unit. Subscribe and let me know what you think. Peace!